Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight.
It's going down. It is going down. It's going down. It's going down. Welcome to We Got Issues. Happy Thirsty Thursday. Or as we were talking about before the show, if you listened to yesterday's show, perhaps yesterday was Thirsty Thursday, okay? Sabrina's show was a little hot yesterday. It was a little hot. And actually today, are you a giver or a taker? Might kind of go along with yesterday's show, okay? So... oh my gosh, we have fun. We promise to keep it real and not Pollyanna, and every day a new show. You know, we have so much fun because we have been girlfriends for so long here. You were listening to The Force of Friendship on We Got Issues on 910 AM, the Superstation. And honestly, content is not a problem for us. We just each take a day of hosting, and we don't always even know what the other person's show is going to be until a little bit before. And it was amazing yesterday. How many of you went on to the boutique? How many of you went on to the website? Today we are talking about, are you a giver or a taker? And honestly, this is an easy kind of topic to talk about, but I bet you some of what I share is going to be a new way to think, kind of a pivot. This book really got me thinking, and I said, this is just a really good topic. But before we jump into that, we want to visit with the girlfriends. We are missing our girlfriend Gloria GMB. She is in Sabrina keeps track of her on her. She got it on GPS. New York, Sabrina, Manhattan,
Colorado. She's moved out of New York, gone on to Colorado, but she's gone on out west.
Oh Lord, New York yesterday and Colorado today. So Gloria is in Colorado. She is enjoying the beautiful. I wonder what the weather is like, but I bet you it's nice in Colorado. We are getting some much needed rain. We had some. It's dried up now, but California, we need rain, baby. We need rain before that sun and that heat comes. And so I'm going to visit with the girlfriends real quick, but y'all, two things that happened in our neighborhood, literally. 4 cousins with COVID and a neighbor. So we got to stay vigilant. And I do have one cousin who has an 8-year-old with asthma and has a pretty severe case of COVID. Others are very mild, and I hear some people are calling it like it's just a common cold. But I'm telling you that just as a reminder to stay woke, stay woke, stay woke. COVID still exists. And so just wanted to say that the girlfriends can chime in on that. And then I got, we live between California and Chicago, and we just made it back to our California house, but we have a neighborhood watch messenger. And child, they sent a picture. They're building this house on a vacant lot that is near our house in Chicago. And when we left, we were, you know how when somebody's building something, every time you drive by, you like look in and, and check out, they making progress. Oh my gosh, we fly in, fly out. Oh my gosh, look, they got another story, 3 stories. And yesterday at 4:30, the entire house fell down. Faulty construction. I'm like, you know what? Who is building this house? I mean, praise God, it wasn't done. Nobody had moved in yet. But can you believe that? I mean, the liability, everything. They sent a picture and it just collapsed. I mean,
that's interesting.
It's just crazy.
It wasn't an earthquake.
No earthquake, no tornado. The neighbors were just saying, I don't know what happened. I drove by at 4 and it was standing at 4:30. It fell down. So that's just taking shortcuts.
And you just wonder if they're using not good equipment, if they're going too fast. The demand is so high, supplies are not out there.
Lumber is expensive. So did they cut the cost on lumber?
Script on the lumber, on the labor, all of it. So that's something, Katrina. That's my goodness gracious.
Yeah. I mean, for real, that could have been tragic if some people had moved in. So that's what's happening in from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood. So Sabrina, how are you doing? It is so good to see the sun shining and your tulips in the background. I got my roses in the background.
It's Easter time, baby. We're going toward Resurrection Weekend. It's Resurrection Sunday week. So it's just counting our blessings along the way. Katrina, you look so pretty in that yellow. Yellow is your color. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm working it. Me and Chris have this top.
Oh yeah, both of y'all have that top. Y'all could have told the other girlfriends. That's, you know what? When it's two of y'all, all four of us should get the same top. Okay, we live in four different cities. We can all have the same top. So all is well. All is well. Just saddened to hear about the guy who was gunned down by the police in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Another unarmed Black man dead. I just don't even know what else to say other than how can we get better? How can we do better? When is it going to stop? So trouble here, trouble there, trouble everywhere. Lady Chrisette, welcome back. I saw you on TV with the New Orleans Pelicans. What are they? New Orleans? What's the mascot?
Yeah. They're the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yes, what a game. They look really good. I mean, the head coach in his first year, so proud of that young man, one of the very few African-American head coaches in the NBA. Shout out to him and his beautiful family. And we love that you guys were courtside right there on the sideline. So tell us all about it.
Oh my goodness. It was so exciting. I mean, first of all, to go to New Orleans, when Chuck said, you know what? Once Wooly won a game and he knew that he was going to be in that playoff, he's like, we should go to New Orleans. I said, you say New Orleans, I say, let's go. Okay. And so I said, well, let me see what the weather is. And then I found out the weather was 82. I was like, oh, sign me up. And you guys know, ain't no gumbo like New Orleans gumbo, seafood. They have it all. So I was just excited about all of that and really excited to be there to support Willie Green and him being a brand new coach there in New Orleans. He's such an awesome young man. We absolutely going to have him on the show sometime in June just to talk about his progression, to have watched him from, going to our Christian school at Greater Grace, his entire family, still, many of them are still at Greater Grace, and just watching him go to high school and become a star athlete right there at high school, and then going on to college and just do an amazing thing. And he has a tremendous family. His wife, Tara, you guys, she's been on the show before. And when she was on, he was an assistant coach. So she has progressed from being a basketball wife to a assistant coach's wife. And now she is the wife of the head coach. And so we kind of talked a little bit about what that was all about. And she's going to come on the show because her responsibilities have totally picked up. And it's just a different world. But I mean, it was wonderful. The game, I mean, when I say they were blowing it out, and Sabrina, you're going to love this. They're playing and stuff. And then one of the guys turned over the ball. I was like, I can't believe he turned the ball over. Chuck looked at me and said, all right, go ahead. You know what a turnover is. I said, shut up. Sounded like Sabrina and Gloria. He looked at me. I'm serious. He looked at me and said, you said turnover? He said, I'm impressed. I was like, shut up. I know a little bit about basketball. But it was really, really a great game. I mean, they were up, in the first, second quarter, they had gone up by like 20 points, and then they went down to 6, and Chuck was like, close it down, close it down, close it down. So we were just excited that they were the victors at the end of the day. So he's on to California. They're going to play the Clippers. They're playing the Clippers. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, sending up many prayers for them and hoping that he can win. Because if he wins this second game, then he'll go on to the NCAA Finals. So that would be totally, I almost said NAACP. I said NCAA. I was just gonna let it slide.
Stop. Hey, stop while you're ahead. Stop while you're ahead, Chris. They turned over the ball. Now turn it back over to Katrina. Okay, bye-bye. Okay.
Shut up, Sabrina.
Oh my goodness.
Shut up.
I want to know with our girlfriends, are you up on sports? What's your favorite sport? We have girlfriends and guy friends chiming in the chat. We thank you for listening in the radio as well as Facebook. And we are so great to see, is it Ohamaje? Juliet, one day you have to call in or type your name phonetically so we can get it correctly. Listening from Dubai, 2:06 a.m. Wow. One of our favorite places, Chris. We got some amazing pictures. That's going to be a girlfriend trip to Dubai. I promise you, we are going back. I do want to make one important announcement. NASCAR and football. I love it. My daddy was a NASCAR person, and I watched car racing with him. I want to make one public service announcement for the girlfriends. If you have not made your Mother's Day, or those of you that are mothers, those of you that have mothers, you need to make your Mother's Day reservations, because it is less than a month out, and already something said today to go in, and already the pickings was slim. So now is the time to make reservations. Men, text your husband, make sure they get some reservations in for Mother's Day. Today's show, you guys, is being sponsored by Opulence MD Beauty. They specialize in creating eye-specific beauty products that help maintain the health and safety of your eyes, so you can book and skip the glue and keep the glam. This is so important for me, you guys. I mean, honestly, I've become allergic to lash glue, and the idea of no lashes. I tried other magnetic lashes. They were not working for me. So I love my Opulence MD Beauty, and I pulled out a new pair today, and they're blinging. And so you can go to Opulence MD Beauty. They have a special going, and you can use our code, which is We Got Issues 15. We Got Issues 15, all one word. Make sure you use that code. This is today's show. Well, we're going to be talking, and I posted a test that I know many of you probably didn't get to take, but afterwards, go on the Force of Friendship Facebook page and take the test. There's actually two tests there. One leans more to how are you in a romantic relationship, and the other leans more to how are you at work, which, believe it or not, we're not always the same. But we're talking today about, are you a giver or a taker? Or actually, there's something in the middle called a matcher. So we know takers. They try to get as much from other people as possible while contributing as little as they can. And probably nobody in the chat is going to admit to being a taker, but we know some are out there, and type the initials of the taker. Givers are generally people who enjoy helping others and are fine with giving more than they receive. And matchers aim for quid pro quo. I help you, you help me. So we're going to talk a little bit about how are you, and it's very interesting who finishes last and who finishes first. And I wonder. Thanks, Mardi says the eyelashes are fabulous. They work perfectly. No runny eyes. She loves it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we got basketball fans and so forth out there. So before I just get in, because I have a lot to, I'm kind of reading from or sharing some from this amazing book that I read about givers, takers, and matchers by Adam Grant. And these personalities offer simple strategies to promote a culture of generosity and keep self-serving employees from taking more than their share. So we're going to talk about it. And I want to just ask you a question. Which one are you? Okay. Are you the person when someone says, what can I do for you? What is your first thought? What is your default? That's kind of a test. And we're going to learn that there are takers, and some takers are narcissists. And then there are givers, and some givers turn out well, and some givers give so much till they get burned out. So we're going to talk about kind of what are you. But for the girlfriends, when you think about being a giver or a taker, like what comes to mind? For me, there's nothing worse than being in a working relationship with someone who is all take and no give. We're going to a commercial break and the girlfriends will chime in. We'll be right back. Call us at 313-778-7600. Are you a giver? Are you a taker? Or right in the middle? Are you a matcher? We'll be right back. righty, we are back. We are back. You are listening to We Got Issues. And today we are talking all things. We talked a little bit about basketball. Chris knows just a little bit about basketball. We talked a little bit about the little bit she knows. We talked a little bit about, what's happening in the world and all that is taking place. And this is just a really big topic. Today we're talking giver, taker, or matcher. And there's a test that we posted on the Force of Friendship Facebook page that you can take. And there's actually 2 of them. And this is what my test says, true confessions. It said, now, first of all, let me tell you about people in the world. In the world, 19% test as takers. Some of them lie, okay? I think some of them lie, okay? 56% test as matchers and 25% test as givers. And sometimes I think the givers are so nice, they probably are underrepresented also. But yeah. I scored 47% as a matcher. Okay. And but then I took the test, the romantic test, and it said that I was a giver. So very, very interesting. Very interesting. So how would you describe yourself, Chrisette? What do you think?
That is really good. And you know what? And I will confess, I did not finish and complete the test. So I'm absolutely going to take the test after the show. You know, I would say that I am a giver. And just because I was able to read some of the questions. And so I think I would, and I could be totally wrong, but I think I would lean more so on the giver than the taker side. So, I mean, that's how I see myself. But of course, you see yourself maybe differently than other people see yourself. I try to give because I try to be that person, you know, my cousin used to always say this, and I'm always reminded, she said, if you deposit, if you give to people, then you'll have something to withdraw. But if you do not give and deposit something in, don't be surprised when you can't make withdrawals. And so I often think about that. And, you know, we say all the time, what you put in is what you get out. So I constantly keep that in my forethought, but am I good at it 100% of the time? Probably not, but I try to be. So I would lean towards giver.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love that Lynn said her test 71% giver, 71% giver. So I'm going to give you some tips for the givers, because sometimes giving gives you energy and sometimes giving burns you out. I'm going to ask you, Sabrina, but this quote goes along with what you said, Chris. The true measure of a man is how he treats someone or she treats someone who can do them absolutely no good. That's the true test, you know, and that's how do you hold the door for somebody when it doesn't matter? Do you are you kind to the cook or just the maitre d'? You know, just how are you? So Sabrina, what do you think about? Talk about yourself or talk about somebody else? Giver, taker, matcher?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. This is all interesting. I have not taken the test. It's very intriguing because as I'm listening to you guys and I'm looking at the comments, I mean, nobody's going to say, I'm a taker. That's me. I'm proud of it. I mean, who's going to say that? And even if you score as a taker, you're going to be like, this test is not right. This test is not right. So I think we really should practice being more giving. Clearly in all areas of our lives. But I do know people in my life who are clearly more giving than others. I mean, my sister is a true giver. Regina, that girl gives and gives and gives. That's just who she be. And so if you compare the two of us, well, no, I don't give like Regina gives. Okay. I mean, she just,
I was hoping you talked about Regina, because I think of her as the constant giver. Constantly.
She really is. I mean, whether it be to family, to people down the street that she doesn't know. I mean, the giving, like when you see people on the street, she will turn the car around and say, how long have you been on the street? Can I go get you some food? I won't give you money right now, but I will go get you some food. To the point where we had one homeless man in our neighborhood in Tulsa, and he knew when Miss Regina came around, girl, he was like, I want a mellow yellow, okay? Like, not just a drink. And Regina would give her a car and go get the mellow yellow. Okay, now I don't give like that. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not turning the car around and taking the menu. Okay.
But here's the thing. Go ahead, Sabrina.
No. Go ahead. So I probably have work to do in that area. But clearly, I love getting to know people. I love wanting to make a difference. I love just getting to know people with nothing attached. How can I make you better? How can we work together? So I definitely give in that area. But Regina's level of giving, no, I'm not there. I'm not there.
And you know what, Sabrina? I'm so glad that you brought up Regina, because I think in a test like that, it's kind of skewed to, and like you said, one was more romantic and one was more work. So listening to you talk about Regina, I would say that there are definitely areas that I would be very proud to say I am a giver. And you know how I make people feel, making sure everybody feels accepted, and you don't have to feel like you have to be this big wig or this person of influence in my presence. So I think certain levels I would give myself a high rating. And then there are other levels where I would look and say, you're absolutely right. Can I improve on that level? I absolutely. So I think it's a test of certain things you'll rate high. And then there are others where you say, you know what? I'm not as good as that person, and we all can do better. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I absolutely would say areas that I'm really good at and areas that definitely I could improve.
True confessions. That absolutely. This is what I found, though, directing to what you talked about, Sabrina, is you give, but you give in your strength. And Regina has different strengths. And so this is what's interesting. The book is called Give and Take by Adam Grant. And the interesting basic thing about this book is he says, who finishes last in a job setting? Givers. But who finishes first in a job setting is also givers. It's very interesting. So what's the difference in the givers that are successful in their careers and the givers that aren't? And that's what really, as I was reading this, it's like, oh my gosh, reciprocity and success are linked, and that helping others ultimately drives our success. Success at work can be attributed, of course, to passion, talent, hard work, luck, all of that, blessings. However, there's a missing piece of the puzzle. And what he talks about is giving. Givers are the rare people who contribute without expecting anything in return. And so when we look at this, there's a difference between givers and strategic givers. We're really missing Gloria on the show. As I was reading this, Gloria is very much of a strategic giver. If you've got the gift of the giver, but find your candle is burning thin, then you really want to lean into this conversation. You might even want to grab the book, because he really helps you figure out how to give without getting burned out. And it's giving from your strength, from what gives you energy, as opposed to just giving. And are you willing to give to yourself? Some people give so much that they don't include themselves in the equation. It's okay to receive also, you know, and that's a big difference. Talk about it.
I wonder, and so some givers, it's difficult for them to receive a gift, or they're so used to giving, they're not comfortable getting at all. Like they want to always pay for the lunch. They want to always do this. They want to always provide the acts of service. And then when you try to reciprocate, they don't even know. And so I always find myself saying, no, it's okay. You give so much, let somebody give to you. And so I think givers have a hard time receiving.
Yeah, and also, you know, in the book that I just finished, 13 things that mentally strong women don't do. It talks about being able to receive. And it gets into the compliment part of it, when people give you a compliment. And that's kind of similar to when people want to do something nice for you, you kind of go back and say, no, it's okay. Or if somebody compliments you, you're like, well, you know, I got it at the discount store. Oh, you lost weight. Yeah, but you look really great. And so it just kind of talked about being able to accept and receive what somebody is trying to give you, because, you know, women who are mentally strong don't have the need to discount, you know, if someone gives them something or compliments them or want to take them out, they don't have the need to always feel like they have to do it. And so sometimes it's a self-esteem thing as well, which is interesting.
That's very interesting. It's very interesting. And there are there are givers that have turned into takers in some ways in their job because they've gotten burned so many times, and someone told them or helped them, you know, told them, if you keep giving like that, you're never going to move ahead. And that is not true. It's just learning how to give. Takers are self-protective. What can you do for me mentality. They put themselves first and aim to tilt reciprocity in their favor, so that it benefits them. Matchers are fair and balanced and believe in an even exchange. They believe success hinges on reciprocity and aim to give and receive in equal measure. And if you believe in fairness, a lot of people say, what's wrong with that? But the reality is givers are the less common. They help out whenever they can, and their motivation comes from altruism. Ultimately, they believe that only kindness matters, so they give without thinking about what they will get in return. And if you do this strategically, if you give where you can be of most value, and if you give with boundaries so that you still have time to take care of you, take care of your responsibilities, it's really important. So I'm going to give you some more tips on that when we come back. But Chris, read what Dorothy said in the chat real quick. We'll do that. We're going to another break. Okay, I thought we had another minute. We will be right back. We'll be right back. So stay tuned to We Got Issues. right, we are back. We are back. We are back. It is unbelievable what we can get done in a 2-minute break, commercial break, while we're paying some bills. Oh my gosh. It is a blessing to have you guys listening. We just appreciate you for being our loyal listeners, our first time listeners, our listeners in Detroit, our listeners all over the country, and our listeners all over the world. So thank you for tuning in. Today's show is sponsored by Opulence MD Beauty. We are rocking their lashes and loving their lashes. You see our pictures? These girlfriends got, yes, we all know how to do our own makeup, but we have a makeup artist come on in to just hook that look, step it up a notch. And if you want to step your eyes up a notch, just put some lashes on. You can throw some lashes on and some lip gloss and call it a day. Okay. And these are so quick. I mean, honest, true confessions. I don't always walk around my house with lashes, but right before this show, I was, changing and prepping, and I just used, it comes with two different liners, and I like the gel liner. There's also a liquid liner, and you just whoop, 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 and magnet, and it's on. Bam, it's on. There you go. So we appreciate our Opulence MD Beauty lashes. So we are talking givers, takers, and matchers. All can and do achieve success, but there's something distinctive that happens when givers succeed. It spreads and cascades. When takers win, that usually requires someone else to lose. So with a taker, it's a win-lose situation. But research shows that people tend to envy successful takers and look for ways to knock them down a notch. In contrast, when givers win, people are rooting for them and supporting them rather than gunning for them. Givers succeed in a way that creates a ripple effect, enhancing the success of people around them. When we were with Tyrone, he talked about this. He talked about in corporate, people get promoted because of what people say about them when they're not in the room. And we know when you're a taker, folks talk about you, don't like you, but being a giver, just think about in a situation with people that give and help it to be better. I really think that's what makes our relationship work so well, because we are all givers in it's just such a balanced friendship that we have. Wouldn't you guys agree? Everybody?
Yeah, that's the only way it can work. That's the only way these relationships can work.
Right.
Seriously. I think our friendship is so beautiful because we respect each other, we honor each other, we are considerate and kind. That is the base of our friendship. Now, we've all been in those relationships or friendships where they're takers. They're just users, they're takers. It's all about them. They have to always be right. They always have to talk first. It irks me. I mean, drives me crazy. And I couldn't do it. I could not be good. I don't know how people are friends with takers. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that works. How does that work, First Lady?
And you know what? And that's good. I think sometimes takers, they're manipulative as well. They get what they want through manipulation. And so that's important to know. And then, the Bible talks a lot about the blessing in giving. It's more of a blessing to give than it is to receive. And, you think, wow, takers want to always be on the receiving end. But I really believe what the Bible is trying to teach us is that you are really, really blessed when you can be the person that gives, because if I'm giving, it means that I don't necessarily, and this is not always true, but sometimes, people give what they don't necessarily have themselves. So like they may share something and, I'm going to share with you, but this is all I have. And so you have people that are givers to a fault, they will go without and give to other people. But I think when you really realize that you're in a position to enhance and make somebody's life better, and that God has blessed you to be in a position to do that, I think it is an obligation that we do that, because the flip side of it is you could be the person in need. So I think that when God has blessed you with abundance, and when I say abundance, I don't necessarily mean it has to be money. We have all been blessed. We have time, we have energy, we have a lot of different ways in which we can give. And so I just think, to keep that in mind is so important, because I totally believe in reciprocity. I think that's how you say it,
Mm-hmm.
because you do reap what you sow. Not that you're giving to get it back, but that's just a universal law. You will absolutely reap what you sow.
Keep an eye out for takers. Give to people who will pay it back or pay it forward. In other words, watch out for takers. Some takers have gotten really good and they actually become fakers. So, how do you spot a taker in givers' clothing? Takers typically promote themselves eagerly. They use words like I, mine, versus we and ours. They treat people below them differently. They kiss up, they kick down. They tend to be cold and short towards people they feel they can benefit from. Fakers take and create an excellent impression until they get what they want. So the moral of the story is to give people a chance to prove to you if they're a taker or a faker, okay? And you'll see them. Listen to this, y'all. Talking about giving, they did a test with 160 engineers and that were givers and 600 medical students. And there were a bunch of the engineers that finished last in their class that were givers, and a bunch of the medical students that finished last in their class that were givers. But there also were a bunch that were givers that finished at the top. So it turns out the medical students who scored the highest grade also reported that they gave the most. So what's the difference? One of the benefits of giving is it helps you to form strong, trusting relationships that benefit. Giving forms these robust relationships. It leads to increased happiness and better performance at work. What separates givers at the top of the success ladder is givers who succeed in the workplace are not selfless. They are other-ish. It's this word that he says, but it's not being selfless, which means saying yes to every request and dropping everything at the drop of a hat. But it is many people confuse being nice with being helpful. I don't have to say yes to everything. So it's really interesting. And so there's a couple tips I'll give you. He says the ability to add themselves to the priority list is really important. Generosity burnout happens when you do not prioritize yourself. We want to welcome Joy, who's listening. I love Brisbane, Australia. I mean, it is one of the most beautiful places. The rainforest in Brisbane, I've been there. It's gorgeous. And that's one thing I'll say, it's cultural too. Australians, typically, my impression of Australians, very much givers. My impression overall in America, I bet this test was Americans. We got a lot. We are gimme,
Katrina,
my name, Jimmy.
Katrina, I want to throw this out there because I've had opportunities to talk to a number of individuals, and we interviewed her individually. And a lot of times it's in relationships, and a lot of times it's in married relationships where the spouse, whether it's the husband or the wife, is a constant giver to everyone else, but not a giver to the spouse. And I've talked with individuals who kind of resent that their spouse gives to other people, but when it comes to them, they don't get the same. So it's one of those things where people think, oh, this person's just so wonderful, da, 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 da. And the spouse is like, yeah, he or she did all that for you, but they don't do the same for me. So is it wrong that the spouse feel that way? Is that the response of a taker, or is that a totally different issue? Because you can be perceived as a giver by a lot of people,
right?
But
right.
It can also be perceived as they don't give me. And sometimes it's the family, okay, it's the children. So that's another part of that, I think.
Yeah. And Chris, I've heard that like pastors' wives or the church.
I was going to say that.
You know, the church. Let's talk about it. Okay. Preachers, everybody's pulling on you. You're praying. You're going to see the sick and shut in. You're over their house. You're at that hospital morning, noon, and night. And then when you come home, you're like drained. Medical doctors, you're giving. Therapists, counselors. So I think occupations that require so much giving, that could easily be, unfortunately, it's not, it's what it is. But I know that to be true in some of those professions. Yeah.
And I'll say this. I remember when my children were young, and Chuck had just become the pastor, and I can remember there were times where maybe some of the members would send stuff in about their children, and they got a 4.0 and they were doing this, that, and the other, and he would say that and not say anything about my kids. And I remember having that conversation, said, listen, while you're talking about all of the people at the church, their children and what they're doing, I'm going to need you to talk about Kiera, and I'm going to need you to mention Buddy, because literally it would get under my skin sometime to hear all of this accolades and adulation of other kids. And then my kids were sitting out there like, Daddy don't ever say nothing about us. So I had to nip that in the bud quick, fast, and in a hurry. But I'm saying, and again, I say that not saying that it was done intentional. A lot of times things are done and the person don't even realize that the perception is that. So that's why it's important to communicate it. But I literally remember saying, hey, you need to mention that Kiera got this in school. You need to mention that Buddy got that in school.
Yeah. It is so good. So good. We're talking. I mean, it's a deep conversation, and we appreciate Carmen, who says some people try to block your giving because they cannot relate. They don't want you to shine. Okay. Keeping it real, keeping it real. We will be right back. And I'm going to give you some things, how to avoid giver burnout, some tips when we come right back for the break. Okay, it is Thursday, almost time for those red bottoms because you could not wear them to work. Okay. So, almost time, almost time. We want to thank you for listening in to We Got Issues every day, Monday through Friday. And we promise to bring you some great content every day. And I hope that this has been helpful. So, how do you avoid getting squashed if you are a giver? How do you become a productive giver? So, here's some tips. Number one, prioritize the help requests that come your way. Prioritize. You can't do it all. Say yes when it matters most and say no when you need to. No is a complete sentence. You said that this week, Chris, on one of our shows. Number two, give in ways that play to your interests and your strengths to preserve your energy and provide greater value. When you give in your strengths, it gives you energy as opposed to taking energy because it's something you can do naturally. Number three, distribute the giving load more evenly. This is really big. Refer requests to others when you don't have the time or skills, and be careful not to reinforce gender biases. That's huge for women. Number four, always we hear this one, when you get on a plane, secure your oxygen mask first. You'll help others more effectively if you don't neglect your own needs, aka your family, Kiara and Buddy. Okay, they got an A too. Okay, don't get it twisted. Number five, amplify your impact by looking for ways to help multiple people with a single act of generosity. Number six, chunk your giving. This one is huge for me. Chunk your giving into dedicated days or blocks of time rather than sprinkling it all throughout the week because it causes you to be not as focused. One of the things in the book he talks about success and how successful they were in a job is when you don't just give every day all the time, when you chunk it in. And there's something called pay it forward with a 5-minute favor. So I want to challenge you guys to do that today. A 5-minute favor is exactly what it sounds like. In small ways, you help someone in 5 minutes or less. So it doesn't take all your time. And lastly, learn to spot takers, to steer clear from them. That is where you can adopt more of a matcher role and not a giver. If you know someone is a taker, don't let them take, because they will always drain your energy and mess with your performance. They are a performance hazard. So that's some good stuff. Some good stuff.
And you know what? Let me add this, Katrina. You know, as we're talking about givers and takers, sometimes people are takers of your time. And I mean, it's like, and I'm, from my perspective, you know, sometimes, you know, you're standing in line and people are just talking to you and they see it's 30 other people waiting to talk to you and they're going on and on. And what they're talking about is not a level 10, you know, and it's like, that's another form of taking when you are not cognizant of a person's time. And, you know, one of the things that we always say, and I try my best to say, when I call people, I say, do you have a few minutes? And if they say no, I say, okay, what's a better time for me to call? Because sometimes you can call and then you're going on and the person doesn't know how to say, I can't talk to you right now. So I think we can fall into taking other people's time.
Mm-hmm. That's big. That is so big, being conscious. How have you learned? We all are givers. I mean, we give and we give and we give. We give where we get paid. We give where we don't get paid. We give where the need is. But how have you learned to create balance? Because we've all, I know, gotten better with that. 30 years of entrepreneurship. Our business is a giving business. So Sabrina, you have so many people pulling on you all the time and you give a lot. How have you mastered it so it doesn't wear you out?
Yeah, I think when you're a giver, it feels good to give, but then also you got to think who's given to the giver. Your fuel tank gets low. And I think it's important that once you grow in this area, that when it's time to refuel, you get real smart about it and say, I got to shut it down. I got to shut it down, fill up my cup so I can be good at what I do. This is my natural, this is my sweet spot. This is where I reside. But we all know that it gets to a point when you have given out, you've given out. And you got to know yourself, to thine own self be true. And when you know that you're not at your best, you're not giving it your best, your energy is not where it deserves to be, where you know you have to just take a minute, exhale, take some deep breaths, get away from whatever it is that you need to get away from, and replenish the soul. That's so important. Replenishing.
It's so important. One thing that I taught on recently, when you're running for a big goal like we do in our business so much, is being a sprinter versus being a marathoner and knowing which one you are. And it kind of relates to giving and taking as well. I'm a sprinter, for example, and I'm also an ambivert. So what that means is I have to have replenishing time privately. So I can go hard for a short period of time, and then I have to retreat. Marathoners can, like, they have a rhythm and they can keep that rhythm for a much longer period of time. So, I give and give and give, and then I have to literally like turn it off. Like, that's just me. So you have to know you have to find your rhythm and find what works for you. How about you, Chris?
No, and I agree with that. I would say I'm like you, Katrina, that I would probably consider myself a sprinter as well, because I definitely know I have to replenish, because, people will take and take and take. I remember, being at church a while back, and my sister, she said to me, my younger sister, she was just off watching, and she's like, you know what? She said, that is your gift. She said, I could never do that. She said, people are constantly pulling, pulling, pulling. Everybody wants your attention. But I think that, God gives you what you need depending on the positions that you are in. But I also know that this is a great conversation, because you can look and say, yeah, there's some areas, in my life where I can absolutely improve. And I think one of the things that I've read, I can't remember what book, is that you can find a way to be a giver every day. Just make a list of Monday, I'm going to give this. And sometimes we think we have to give to 20 people. Find one person. And that's a challenge to our tribe. Monday through Friday, just challenge yourself to give to one person, whether it's somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, or whether, you're standing in line and you see someone and say, I'm going to pray for their groceries. So there's so many ways that we can give if we challenge ourselves.
This, I wanted to close with this today because John Maxwell did a sermon, and it's called 4 Perspectives on Possessions. And we're familiar with the Good Samaritan story, but this is 4 quick perspectives on possessions. The first one is called the robber. What is yours is mine is the concept of the robber. I'm going to take all your stuff. We are born robbers because kids rob. It's like mine. Everything is mine. And then the second perspective of possessions is what is mine, and I'm going to keep it. And that's real interesting. The third perspective is what is mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. And that is the Good Samaritan. But then the even greater Samaritan is what is mine is not mine, and I'm going to manage it. We are literally God's delivery boy, God's delivery girl. We have been given resources, talents, and we are to give it. And when you give in your talents, you always can win. Nice women, nice guys can finish first, not always last. So practice that 5-minute giving and make sure it's to your husband as well. Okay. So we'll see you tomorrow on Friday. Bye-bye. Happy Thursday.
See you later. Great show.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.